Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio Network. To educate, to enlighten, to entertain. Your host, me, Lillian S. Cauldwell. And today, on this episode of the bi-weekly podcasting tip, we're going to talk about agreements. And this particular agreement is a podcast agreement that the host should send out to anyone they're going to bring onto their podcast, including a co-host, which we will go into next week. So what is a podcast agreement? It is an agreement between two people or three people or four people, depending on how many guests you are going to interview or have on the show to share their story, information, knowledge, expertise. It protects you, it protects them, and it's one of the responsibilities that a host needs to do. So I'm going to provide you with an example of a podcast guest agreement that I had to sign before I appeared on a podcast show that was hosted by Lisa Skinner, Truth, Lies, and Alzheimer's. The co-author of who worked with her, Doug Callens, prepared the document for me to sign. So let me give you an example of what it looks like so you'll know. Before you sign any document, you may want to have a lawyer take a look at it. There's certainly a lot of them that will do it for a minimal fee online. Or if you're one of the lucky ones who can afford an entertainment lawyer, make sure they read it over. It used to be said that when you sign something, that's it. But that's not necessarily true. So the least you should do is do your homework before you sign any agreement. You're not in a position where you should not know what you're signing. You have to read it first. No matter how long it takes, you should receive it well before the interview. A good host is accountable for their actions and for any actions that they require of you, especially when you need to sign your name to a document. And as a co-host, you may also be responsible for sending one out or putting one together, creating it for your guests to relieve and to help your primary host with some of the duties, responsibilities for being a potential talk show host. Make sure you send an introduction, which is a one page, and you tell them what the podcast is all about, its purpose, and why they're asking you to appear. So the first thing is you have to put down the purpose and its goals. Welcome to our podcast, Truth, Lies, and Alzheimer's, with host Lisa Skinner and our co-host Doug Callens. Our podcast deals with dementia care and Alzheimer's care. We've created this podcast to give family members and caregivers to people who suffer from Alzheimer's disease and related dementia and make it a safe place to convalesce. We share real life stories about how to deal with the emerging challenges caused by Alzheimer's disease and dementia. Will help you take the first step to build a bridge to your loved ones suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's disease. It's a way to start the conversation about the changes you experience as the disease progresses over time. The decisions that you make may be proactive. The need to learn about the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease and dementia, and the goal to become a better caregiver. Support and community are vital to your well-being and survival on the journey. Join us, authors Lisa Skinner and Douglas Collins. So, as I stated before, the co-host may provide the guest with a briefing document providing the production end of podcasting. For example, use of a particular video platform and why the podcaster uses it exclusively. Example, Riverside.fm. Remote podcast platforming. Another step is to provide the software or radio station's name who airs the program on the internet or the terrestrial radio stations. Recording tips for the guests. What to expect and what guests should do to participate to their best advantage. If you have a hard floor in your studio, put down a rug. Put blankets on the walls. This isolates and keeps noises from coming into your studio while you're recording and interviewing a guest. Find a quiet room, which means your cell phone goes out unless you're using it to take questions and answers from your listening audience. To stop any echo, use a small room with plenty of furniture. Use a quality microphone. Suggested a Rode NT-USB, for example, a Yeti microphone. Use the microphone properly. It means the microphone should be down here, not over here. Otherwise, you can't hear anything, or you hear too much, like the Z's and S's, for examples. Use an even tone when speaking into the microphone. Speak in a slow voice. Yes, you need to enunciate. You're not running a race against the rabbit. Wear headphones if you can afford them. Answer the email invite or dial the conference phone room early with the provided main number and PIN code. The early bird does get the worm. 5 minutes early is the preferred entry for guests. Wait your turn to speak. The guest should use Google Chrome as the browser and turn off other program notifications. Pay attention to the lighting. Unclutter your office and don't depend on natural light to make you look good on the camera. These are some of the tips that you'll need and that a person will see when signing the document. So think it over. Call to action, should you want an example of a podcast host guest agreement, text 484-364-1032. Give me your name, give me your email, and tell me what you want. That you want a copy, an example of a podcast guest agreement, and I will send it to you. Or email us at pwrnetworkllc@gmail.com with the same information included. And you can then receive the guest podcast agreement, because it's important for the host to know that you're going to understand the directions provided in that document, and not only understand it, but you'll follow through on what you just signed. So I want to thank you very much for listening today. If you would like to pursue the career or the experience of becoming a good professional podcast host or podcaster, contact me, Lillian Cauldwell, at pwrnetworkllc@gmail.com, and I will provide you with the information about the obstacles of podcasting, learning everything you need to do, and most importantly, interact, stand up, turn around, and use the information that I will be training you with as you go along. So by the time you create your 3 podcasts, you'll be a real expert. Thank you once again. You can see this tip on youtube.com/PW Network, PW Talk Radio, on facebook.com/Passionate World Radio, on facebook.com/Master Your Communication Skills, on at PassionateWorldTalkRadio.com. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in a week.